This training is brought to you by the Niagara Library System. We serve member libraries in Niagara, Orleans, and Genesee counties. Please visit your local library homepage and use your library card to get access to streaming videos, downloadable music, audiobooks, ebooks, and even more from the comfort of your own home. Thank you.
Hello. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about reading body language. Now, what I did was I have a slightly different setup with the light and the camera, and so the camera is kind of over here and my script is like way over there, so we're going to see how this actually works. But I also believe that this video is going to be important, and there's a lot of stuff to cover, so I believe I'm going to actually make it in two different parts, okay? So with that, let's get started. As always, as you can see on the screen, I have my information on where I got my information, my citations. That's what they're called, citations. And we'll go ahead and get started. So I can tell you this, one of the most frustrating things for me in doing so much work over the internet and doing these videos and talking on the phone and not having that face-to-face contact is the general lack of nonverbal cues, okay? So even with video conferencing, even when you can see people, it can be very difficult. Now, granted, I am not complaining, well, too much at any rate, but it is difficult to understand really what people are saying. So the lion's share of our communication is always nonverbal. There's all different studies that say anything from half or more of our communication is nonverbal, including hand gestures. I'll get into those as we go. But having to listen and focus on the words that people are really saying, it gets tiring, I think, for all of us. Even people who really like to listen and do and are really good at it, it's draining. So I find that I myself am extra tired lately, and I was wondering if you felt tired too. Like I said, I do. So, but let's go ahead. I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit. So on the screen here, I have them color-coded, kind of the articles that I am using. So I'm going to start here with the general definition of body language, and then we're going to kind of fan out from there. So Jeannie Segal and the authors over at Help Guide have written a great article on this. Body language is the use of physical behavior, expressions, and mannerisms to communicate non-verbally. Often done instinctively rather than consciously. Whether you're aware of it or not, when you interact with others, you're continuously giving and receiving wordless signals. All of the nonverbal behaviors, the gestures you make, your posture, your tone of voice, how much eye contact you make, all send very strong messages. They can put people at ease, build trust, draw other people towards you, or they can offend or confuse or undermine what you're trying to convey. These messages don't stop when you stop speaking either. Even when you're silent, you're still communicating nonverbally, and you're very active. We are all very active in our communication. In some instances, what comes out of your mouth and what you communicate through your body language may be two completely separate things, okay? Since body language is natural, unconscious language that broadcasts true feelings and intentions, people will likely believe or choose the nonverbal message over your verbal message. So no matter what your intentions are. So we kind of have to, I hesitate to say be careful, because that almost seems like you have to kind of school yourself. We're going to get into actually reading your own and understanding your own emotional cues and your own emotional state, and how that can actually help you match your verbal and nonverbal communication. So we'll get into that. So improving how you understand and use nonverbal communication, we can really express what we really mean and connect better with others and build stronger and more rewarding relationships. So this next part was absolutely fascinating to me. The authors at Help Guide go on to say, if you want to become a better communicator, it's important to become more sensitive not only to the body language and nonverbal cues of others, but to your own, which is what I was just saying. Nonverbal communication can play, they talk about 5 different roles. Number 1 is repetition. It repeats and often strengthens the message that you are giving verbally. Contradiction. It can contradict the message you're trying to convey, thus indicating to the listener that you may not be telling the truth. Substitution. It can substitute for a verbal message. For example, your facial expression often conveys a far more vivid message than words ever can. Complementing. It may add to, your nonverbal communication may add to or complement your verbal message. And this would be really good. As a boss, if you pat an employee on the back, in addition to giving verbal praise, it can increase the impact of your message. Okay. Accenting. It may accent or underline your verbal message. Pounding the table, for example, can underline the importance of your message, or it can display your anger if you're not sure what that is. There's a lot of things that we can do, and we do quite often. Okay, so they have an excellent list of nonverbal cues, and which I will cover very quickly here because the Fremont College does an exhaustive list, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so for now, Help Guide lists the following types of nonverbal communication: facial expressions, body movement and posture, gestures, eye contact, touch, space, and voice. That is the tone of voice. So let's quickly bounce over to the Fremont College site, and then we'll see where we go from there. So I found their blog team wrote an excellent article on reading nonverbal cues, and they list different cues and what they might look like and mean. So in a summary here, and again, I always encourage you to go back to the originals. Okay. Watch the eyes. Eye behavior can be very telling. Like I mentioned to you, my script is actually over here. So I'm trying to look at the camera, at you, but I have to keep on track too. When communicating with someone, pay attention to whether he or she makes direct eye contact or looks away. Inability to make direct eye contact can indicate boredom, disinterest, or even deceit, especially when someone looks away and to the side. If a person looks down, on the other hand, it may indicate nervousness or submissiveness. And the other thing too, I'm going to mention right now, you can't take one thing out of context. So you got to kind of watch for the whole grouping. Okay. So you should not only watch the eyes, but then watch the whole face. Although people are more likely to control their facial expression, you can still pick up important nonverbal cues if you pay close attention. Pay particular attention to the mouth when trying to decipher nonverbal behavior. A simple smile, body language attraction technique can be a powerful gesture. Smiling is an important nonverbal cue to watch for, and there are many different types of smiles, including genuine smiles. Generally, genuine smiles they talk about when the eye muscles are engaged and the whole face is engaged in the smile, versus just kind of had mentioned the kind of the pulling of the mouth backwards. Okay. There is a thing, and I'm gonna cut this part of the video off here, and then we'll continue. Okay, in the next video, there is the idea of, I'm going to call it resting crabby face. I think a lot of us have heard about it. It's called something else, but we'll stick with crabby, okay? And I find that I definitely have a tendency to look very crabby when I'm just neutral. I'm just not thinking of anything or not kind of schooling my expressions. So I do find for myself, if I do kind of pull the ends of my mouth up in a slight smile, it's not really a smile, and I'm certainly not actually smiling. I'm not engaging my whole face, but simply pulling my mouth up slightly at the corners. I don't get that kind of resting crabby face. And you can certainly look that up if you like. But I definitely suffer from it when I'm not paying attention. So what I'm going to do is cut this off here for the moment, and then we're going to do part 2. We'll release that, and we'll see how it goes from there. So thank you.